In other words, do you see anything on the charts that is potentially bullish or positive for Bitcoin? And by the way, guys, I think you're going to like this video because you might be surprised and perhaps shocked by the answer. So what I want to do in this video is to go back and challenge every assumption I've made in my recent videos. As you may have noticed from my most recent videos about Bitcoin, for example, this one and this one, I have been rather bearish on Bitcoin. And by the way, if you go back and watch those videos again, you will notice that I've been consistent and logical in my justifications and my assumptions in those videos. Now, here's what I want to do in this video. Despite the fact that I've been bearish on Bitcoin in the last couple of videos, what I want to do, therefore, in this video is to challenge those assumptions and in fact go against those very assumptions that I had in the last few videos. And I want to see, actually, is there a possibility or a probability that I'm wrong? Now, why am I doing this? And by the way, guys, if you're watching this video on YouTube, please do me a favor and do yourself a favor and do not fast forward this video. I know how it works on YouTube. A lot of people don't have the patience to sit through a whole video, so they just fast forward it and miss the good points. Please listen to everything I have to say in this video because it is extremely important to understand the thinking process behind it. So why do I want to challenge all my assumptions? Because all the best traders in the world, if you go and read the book Market Wizards, for example, you will find the best traders and investors in the world, like Paul Tudor Jones. He said something like this. He said, every day I assume every position I have is wrong. Remember, guys, the great traders and investors in the world, they don't have an ego about themselves. They don't take things personally. They know that it's all about probabilities and not about certainties. So it's important to challenge your assumptions. Number two, the psychologist, Professor Jordan Peterson, who you might have heard about, he said something very interesting recently. And he said that, imagine you have a map in your hand and you're trying to find your way around an area you're not familiar with. And then after many hours, you suddenly realize you're lost because the map you've been following for the last few hours is not corresponding with reality. So the map that we often are following in our hands often does not correspond to the real world. And that, by the way, I think is a great analogy for life. By the way, if you're under the age of 25, you probably have no idea what I'm talking about. But if you speak to someone who's over the age of 35 or maybe in the late 40s, they will tell you, I guarantee you, they will tell you that often the assumptions we make in our young age, when we're very young, we find in later age to be completely false and nonsense. So, guys, always challenge your assumptions. And three, we want to follow the scientific method, which means what? We must falsify our theory to prove it. Not confirm our theory, but falsify it. Why? Because if your theory can still survive falsification, then it's likely true. So I want to bring your attention now to this monthly chart of Bitcoin. And this is a chart of Bitcoin that spans many years. So I'm looking at a chart of Bitcoin now from 2013, 14 down here, and then the eventual gradual rise of Bitcoin from 2016, as you can see here, all the way to 2017. There's the peak in 2017 at 20,000. And of course, the drop that occurred this year towards the levels we're in right now in 2018. All right, guys, so that's the monthly chart of Bitcoin. And the reason why I'm looking at the monthly chart is because I want to show you some key important levels. Okay, now take a look at this chart and you will notice this particular moving average on my chart. Now, that blue line you see on my chart is what's called the 21 monthly average. Let me just repeat that, the 21 monthly exponential moving average, or EMA. And what that average line, what that blue line does, it averages out the price of Bitcoin for every 21 months going back to the past. And that is a key level in technical and chart analysis. Now, you will notice that despite the fact that Bitcoin has dropped since December, so that was the December peak, and that was the drop that we had since then. But notice that actually we're still resting above the 21 monthly average. We've not gone below that level. And this is why, guys, I've said this over and over again, why I refuse to accept the fact that Bitcoin is in a bear market. Bitcoin is not in a bear market. And anyone who tells you that it is in a bear market is wrong. Why? Because as long as Bitcoin remains above the 21 monthly average, there is absolutely no reason why we should assume that it is in a bear market. If you look at other crypto markets, for example, Litecoin, and perhaps some other cryptos, you will notice they are below their 21 monthly average. Those markets are in a bear market, but Bitcoin is not. If you think about it, actually, Bitcoin has been in an upward trend for the last few years, and all this drop is nothing more than a correction, as you can see here, a correction to the previous rally. Okay? So, no, I don't believe that Bitcoin is in a bear market unless Bitcoin closes. In other words, if it goes below that 21 monthly average and closes below it. So in other words, if Bitcoin goes and closes below that blue line, the 21 monthly average, then yes, then we're officially entering a bear market. And also, when you think about it, that makes sense because that means also we're breaking key market structure. If you think about it, these are the previous lows that Bitcoin made back in January, the April lows, and of course the June lows that we formed here. So in other words, if Bitcoin breaks this line, this near the 6,000 or 5,700 level, and closes below that support level, and of course closes below the blue line, the 21 monthly average, that of course confirms we're entering a Bitcoin bear market. But as it is, as things stand right now, that has not happened. So if there's one positive point for Bitcoin, that is it. The fact that despite the drop we've had in Bitcoin, we're still maintaining ourselves above the 21 monthly average and above the support level. Okay? So that's one point in favor of the bulls. Is there any other positive points that we can mention? Absolutely. Yes, for example, if we actually connect these highs, so if I connect these highs and draw a line across the bottom here, you can actually say that Bitcoin right now is sitting inside a triangular or pennant formation. And these triangular and pennant formation often can be continuation patterns. And if you're not familiar with this term, continuation pattern, what that simply means is this, that these patterns often show that the previous trend in Bitcoin can continue. It can continue provided that Bitcoin can escape from this pennant formation. In other words, if it does something like this. So we've got this pennant formation, this triangular formation, and if Bitcoin can see strength that can push it outside and above this trend line here, this downward sloping trend line, that could potentially signify a transition from a correction that we're forming right now into a potential bull market. In other words, the bullish scenario for Bitcoin is, first of all, to remain above the 21 monthly average and above this support level. That is near the 6,000 to 5,700 level here. And it must be able to successfully break out of this downward sloping trend line, push above it, and continue its momentum higher. That would be the bullish scenario for Bitcoin. Now, there's a difference between saying that something is possible and that you have a bullish case for Bitcoin and saying, is it likely, to say if it's probable. So yes, the answer is yes, we do have a potential bullish case for Bitcoin, but the big question is, are they likely? And I got to say to you, the way things are shaping up right now on Bitcoin, the way things have been happening so far in Bitcoin, especially what we've seen in the recent movements in Bitcoin, the recent failed rallies in Bitcoin, I have to tell you that unfortunately, I do not think that the bullish case for Bitcoin is likely. Yes, you can make a bullish case for Bitcoin and you can say, here's the bullish scenario. But if I had to make a choice out of 100%, and if I said, what probability would I give to it? I would not give it a very high probability. I would not give it, for example, a 60 to 70% probability. I would probably give it about a 30% or 35% probability, which is a low probability. Now, you might disagree with that. I understand that. I'm sure there are many people out there who might disagree with that. And they might say, no, those bullish scenarios for Bitcoin are actually very likely. Well, that's fine. But of course, I'll cover the reasons why I think those bullish scenarios are unlikely in a separate video. There is a video that I made some months ago, back in April, and the video is right here. And I'll put that for you at the end of this video so you can watch it, where I explain the dangerous pattern that Bitcoin must avoid. I said Bitcoin must not form this dangerous pattern to avoid falling into a bear market and indeed falling into a downward trend. So go and watch that video. I've explained that in full details. But the bottom line is this, guys. While I try my best to be open-minded, and I certainly want to be open-minded, I think that while you can make the bullish case for Bitcoin, and it's certainly plausible, On the balance of probabilities, I think that it's rather unlikely. And again, we can cover that in a separate video. All right, guys, now let me know what you think. Do you see the bullish case for Bitcoin being more likely, or do you see the bearish case for Bitcoin being much more likely? And let me know that in the comments section, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you very much indeed. And if this video helps, please give it a thumbs up.